Hi, it's Chloe Marie here. It's World Watercolor Month, so July, I've decided to hop on board and follow along with all of the prompts. I also have a big project that I'm currently working on that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And so first thing, let me show you, the prompt for today was reflection. And I did two paintings with this theme of reflection. The first one was inspired by Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, and she drew a crocodile. It was really cool. It was like a crocodile, you know, on top, his little nose sticking out of the water, and then the reflection back. So I tried to do that, but I did not have the reference, and I didn't have her video in front of me. And so as Kaylee from Firefly says, it was a picture made with longing. Someone longing to know what a crocodile looked like. So this is my first attempt. You can kind of see it. It started off like this, and then I couldn't figure out what was going on, so I flipped it over and I just drew it again. It did not work out. So I stuck to a staple that I know, which was trees on water. So reflection wasn't a big thing, but I got it done. And I'm kind of proud of it. So this is day one, reflection. Hopefully I will stay on top of it and have a nice little book of 31 prompts. I don't know what tomorrow is. We'll find out tomorrow. Okay, so for the month of July, I'm going to be working on what I'm calling the Watercolor Project. It all started when I was working with my Master's Touch pan set. It's not this one that I'm going to be showing you. It was a slightly smaller version, but the paints were really chalky. They were nice, vibrant colors, but they had a texture to them, which I'm going to try and demonstrate now. I'm realizing I haven't actually used these yet, so I'm hoping that I pick a color that demonstrates what's going on. Okay, so I put some water on here, and I've got B watercolor paper. If I can pick it up. So I just cut it down. It was a 9x12 pad. I cut them in half, and I've been doing sample product paintings on them. And then I've just got cheap water brush, cup of water. The page is a little bit wet, and I did wet the paint that I'm going to be using. I chose this green. So I'm going to go ahead and lay some of that down. There we go. And I'm going to let it dry, and I can show you guys what I'm talking about as far as the chalkiness goes once that's dry. But in the meantime, I will explain how this all started, how it got out of control, and where I'm going from here. So there were a couple pans of colors that I wasn't using in my other set. It was like an orange and a yellow color, and yeah, I think it started with the yellow and orange. Oh, it was like one that was called like flesh. It was like a peachy color. And yeah, it was super chalky. I wasn't using them, and so I thought I'd do a little experiment on them. I cut them up, and I put the cut up pieces of pan, like the watercolor chunks, in water, dissolved it with tons of water, and then I let it settle and to see if things were separating out. And let me show you how it's turning out. And you can see right there, that's the setup for some of it. And I'll show you what's happening. Okay, I'm gonna show you two things. This is the flesh colored, and you can see there's a clear liquid on top and this chalky liquid on the bottom. So the clear liquid is mostly just water and maybe some pigment, and then the stuff on the bottom is either a pigment or a chalk. I don't really know, and I do think we've got some bacteria growth, which is part of the whole thing. So it's a little hard to know if it's pigment, chalk, binder, filler, whatever, unless I open it up. But like I said, I do think we may have a little bacteria growth in there. And then I tried one of my one of my tube watercolors. I think it was a Royal Langnickel set that I got super cheap. I was just trying out, and I squeezed like the whole tube in a jar of water, and I started portioning it out and putting it into little tiny vials so I could see the various settlements. And I worked my way through. There were basically 3 different types of liquid. I had the high pigment liquid, and I had then like a fine light colored sediment, so like a really pastel purple, and then a really dark sediment that was like a really deep rich purple. It was closer to the color of the watercolor. So my theory is that the light pigment or the light sediment is filler, and the dark stuff is pigment, and then the liquid's just liquid. So, or water, I guess water. I do think there's also some sort of binder that's more like a glycerin, so basically like the glue, the sugar that holds it all together. I'm thinking that's where the bacteria is getting some of its oomph, is from the sugar. So, but let me show you. We got some test tubes. You can see this one. There are 2 layers, or well, there's multiple layers, but there's 2 very distinct layers. There's the bottom layer that's very white, and then there's the top layer of the sediment. It's here. That's very dark. That's pigment. This is whatever that other stuff is. It's chalk, binder, something. And then we just have clear liquid. This, I'm waiting to see if it settles, but this is basically what it all looked like before I started doling it out. And what I've been doing is just using water. And as these, as we get settlement of the sediment on the bottom, what I'll do is I'll take all this water off, put it in a jar to either continue to settle or to evaporate a little bit, and then I take that little bit and with clean water pour it into the test tube with the settlement. So it's kind of being pulled out of here and put into this one. So hopefully I'll isolate it. And it is a very slow process. I've been doing this for about a month, I think, maybe longer. But it got me thinking, what would happen if, I did this with other watercolors? Can I basically take out some of the filler that makes it really chalky, and can I turn it into a better, higher quality watercolor by adding my own binders, and other things like that? So what I'm trying to do is basically extract the pigment and any filler and any binder, if I can. So far this is still in liquid form. I have dried up some of it, so hang on, let me grab that. Okay, there's a couple different things here. This is just dark liquid. This is basically, I think this is like concentrated pigment and binder. So like I'm gonna call it glycerin. It's some sort of sticky substance. This is completely dried. It's got the consistency of like a fruit roll-up, is really what it is. It feels very sticky. It is very pigmented. And it was basically this, and then I added just a little bit of water, and I got this. This is an example. It's an ice cream cup or a cocktail drink, I don't know, but this is an example of what I use to let things evaporate. So whenever I get that really crystal clear water on top, I will pour it into here, and what is left is just pigment. Well, pigment and binder. It's the same liquid, but it's coming from a liquid that seems like it had very, very little. So I've done a few tests on these, and you can reconstitute them into watercolor. I haven't checked to see if they're less chalky. I didn't do an adequate enough pre-testing. So what I have done is I have gathered a bunch of different types of watercolor. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of testing ahead of time. I'm swatching everything. I'm doing a sample picture. I'm taking really detailed notes all about the different properties that I'm seeing in these paints. For example, so like for paint number 14, you know, I've got first impressions, and it's like, okay, it came in a plastic case. It feels very solid. There was a wax piece of paper to protect the pans. There's 17 colors, plus a white, a water brush, natural sponge, and a ceramic dish, which, oh, small. I thought I spelled ceramic with an S. You know, paint appears to be extruded and dried, and then the pigment glued into the half pans, that sort of thing. And then I've got some notes on swatching. Nice colors to swatch, felt very smooth, colors dried bright, that sort of thing. And what I'm planning on doing is I've got all the swatches. I'm going to cut them in half, and half of them are going to go and get light tested. So I'll have the data of what the regular, properly used watercolor looks like in the original swatch, plus what it looks like after it's been faded. Probably leaving it up for probably about a month. And then what I can do is take the watercolor that I make from the extracted pigment, that's like less binder or whatever, and see if it's still as light fast or not. Watercolor is notoriously not light fast. So we'll see if that property's changed. So yeah, so we can look at texture. Is it grainy? We can look at the art quality. Am I going to get vibrant colors? Is it going to blend with other colors in the palette? That sort of thing. Basically, does it react differently? And then I've also picked up some lab supplies because I'm a nerd, and I'll be testing things like pH before and after. I've got a microscope so I can look at the pigments or the paint under a microscope before and after, see what changes. I've also working on trying to get those agar plates that you can test for bacteria, because I do think I had another color that I was testing that was brown, and I started getting this weird growth, and I think there was a bacteria or something that was eating the pigment, because it was turning into a weird quality. It wasn't painty pigment anymore. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I threw it away. I was like, I don't feel good about this. So I threw it away. So I want to be able to test for that. I have learned a few things along the way. The first is to make sure I use distilled water. So now I keep mason jars, and see, I've got everything is labeled, so I know how much water I'm using for each test. Clean instruments, all that sort of stuff. I'm also experimenting with heating up the liquid to see if that'll kill any bacteria and change the quality of things. So anyways, there's a lot going on. It all started with me thinking about the test, and it was just so, you can't hear it, it's on the watercolor paper, it's still kind of wet too. It just sounded gritty and chalky. You know what? I can't show you the Master's Touch sample, but I can show you a different one. Because I've already started. I've done 5 different sets. Oh yeah, this is this one. Okay, so this is number 13. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay, it's written on the swatch card. That's what I was labeling everything, and then I realized, I'm like, ooh, I think I want to do it by number, so I don't know what brand things are and what kind of paint it is, so it'll be more objective. But so this is Master's Touch Cake. It's like the cheapest kind of Master's Touch paint you can get. You can hear, I don't know, I mean, you can see it's cloudy. You can see it on the line. It's a lot more opaque. It's just kind of cloudy. I don't get my lab equipment. I don't get like I just bought a digital microscope, so I can actually like show YouTube what I'm seeing. The microscope I currently have is just a standard manual microscope. I tried like holding my camera up to it, and it's a freaking nightmare. And I'm not, as much as I love watercolor, I'm not a super skilled artist. And so trying to show you what I'm looking at through the microscope seems like something I just don't want to do. So yeah, I mean, call me lazy, but it's just not a skill that I really have. I haven't had to do it since like 7th grade. So we're waiting for that. And I'm also getting pH test strips, that sort of thing. But there are a couple experiments that I'm going to start doing this week, and I'm going to probably try and get out maybe 1 or 2 experiments a week until everything should be in Wednesday, so maybe 2 this week. The first one is to see if it is important to use distilled water. I buy distilled water. It's $1 a gallon. So it's not expensive, but it's not cheap. It's not like free coming out of the tap. So my plan is to try different types of water: distilled, maybe purified, tap water, river water, rainwater, Evian, something like that, and boil it down and see what kind of residue is left over. I don't know if it's going to show anything. I don't know. We'll find out. And then I can also check for bacteria. I can mix equal amounts of paint, equal amounts of water, put them on Petri discs and see what happens. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be doing, as well as seeing how they react as paints. I just don't have a lot of watercolor skills yet. I'm working on it. I'm learning. And there are a lot of artists out there who can do wonderful, skilled pieces of art. But for me, as far as the hobby goes, a big part of the hobby is just playing. Putting big swatches of color down on paper, seeing what happens with the paint. There's a lot of, I sometimes are worried that it's a waste of paint to not make art with it, to mess with it, to just, see what's inside. But I'm like, even if it's not a scientifically monumental thing, the people who make the paint know exactly what's in it. They know how it's going to react under circumstances. I could probably look a lot of this stuff up, but I don't want to. I want to learn through my own experimentation what's going to happen. Yeah, so I'm going to try and vlog. We'll see. Every day during watercolor month. And I know this project is going to take me probably through August or September. So it's going to be a big project. We can kind of just experiment and see what happens. I had a couple hours worth of footage of swatching and all sorts of fun stuff. And it all got corrupted. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I was going to do a review of every product, show the swatching, show the painting, that sort of thing, tell you what I was thinking. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. What I'm planning on doing is showing you the Master's Touch, the whole process from start to finish with Master's Touch. I didn't get to show you unboxing because I lost all that footage, but I haven't swatched them yet. I haven't done a sample painting, so I can show you from start to finish what I'm doing there. I'll walk you through the process of getting all the preliminary information, and we'll go from there. If you think this experimentation is going to be interesting and you want to see what happens next, then go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll keep you updated on what's going on. If you have any questions or you want to see me try something, let me know down in the comments. I'll see what we can do. So signing out for Chloe Marie. Bye. I'm just not very skilled